Welcome to Day 11, Horror Fam! Tonight we're stepping into the eerie realm of foresight, with scary stories about seeing the future. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to see what's coming next? These stories reveal the terrifying truth. Sometimes the future's a nightmare you can't escape. So grab your crystal ball and sit back, and get ready for a night filled with terrifying glimpses of what's to come.
People have a desire to know about things that they really shouldn't know. I think curiosity is part of being human, to knowingly seek out information that normally wouldn't be available, no matter the cost. I don't condemn or condone this behavior. I'm merely here to explain how someone possessing sufficient determination, courage, or maybe stupidity might come by some of this information. Specifically, how someone might learn everything they need to know about their future. It won't be easy for you. Fair warning. The future is a complicated matter, so you won't just find what you're looking for on any street corner. But, if you follow these instructions, you just might be able to find out what you need to know without any serious consequences. The first matter of importance is the time of the month. There needs to be no moon in the sky on the night that you are seeking your answers. But the weather is unimportant. Cloudy skies obscuring the moon will not do. Honestly, if you're already looking for loopholes, you probably should just stop right now. It must be a new moon for you to find the object. You will need to go to an abandoned building. One much bigger than a house. It could be a factory, a refinery, a hospital. You get the idea. It must be away from an urban area with lots of noise and traffic, as being interrupted would be a very poor idea. This means you must do this alone. This point cannot be stressed enough. It would be a good idea to decide on a suitable building before the new moon. You see, the building must be quite specific in its design. You need to find a room within the building that is situated below ground level, with no windows or any other light source. It must be of moderate size, not an aircraft hangar or a broom closet. The room you select must have a door on the southern side of the room. This is of the utmost importance. Please do not get your sense of direction confused. Doing it in a room with a northern situated door would be a very poor way to spend an evening. The room must have a storage unit of some description in it. Possibly a desk, drawers, cabinet, or sizable box. The storage unit must have been in the room already. Do not bring any such items in it with you. Whatever you do, until it is a new moon and you are fully committed to your quest, do not open the storage unit. If you do, you will not find what you are seeking. You see why identifying a suitable room and building before the new moon is ideal. It might take a while, but seeing your future shouldn't be easy. When you go back on the new moon, you must be prepared to enter the room completely naked. That means no wristwatches, cell phones, nothing. Try to remember where the storage unit is within the room, and practice gauging time with no phone or watch. The task will only be completed between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Opening the drawer or unit before 2 a.m. will simply result in a failure. Having the drawer open after 3 a.m. can cause even more trouble. If the storage unit is definitely not where it was the last time, get dressed and leave. Never try again. You'll be happier for it. If the unit is about where you remember, you are ready to go. Open the drawer after 2 a.m. and reach inside of it. You should feel a small candle and a box of matches, as well as a larger item. The larger item is an old Polaroid camera. Light the candle and place it against the eastern wall of the room. Again, please don't mess up your sense of direction. This particular ritual could be likened to an occult game of operation, where any deviation from the desired line results in a failure. Not just an angry buzzing, but I'll leave that to the imagination. You probably won't notice immediately that you've made a mistake, so keep your wits about you. With the candle lit, you can proceed to ensure there are no extra items in the drawer, particularly coins. If there are coins, leave immediately and do not take them. If there is nothing else in the drawer, you may take the photos. There are 12 Polaroids in the camera, but you don't need to use all of them. Stand with your back to the western wall and take a photo of the candle. Wait for it to develop fully before taking another. This rule applies to each photo you take. Despite the lack of light, the Polaroid should develop quickly. You will notice immediately that the photo is not of a candle. If it is, I'm so sorry. It will be a photo of you, but a reasonable distance into the future. This could be 20 years or 200. It really just depends. Don't be too concerned if you see a crumbling tombstone. That will be most of us in 200 years. Unless you place the candle against the western wall. Which I hope for your sake, you haven't. This is where the quest becomes interesting. You may use as many or as few of the Polaroids as you like to find your answers. Each photo you take will be closer to the present time, but the time difference between photos will be random. They may show you your future house, or a car in the background. They may show you your future wife or children. The most important thing here is to keep count. You don't want to use the last Polaroid, no matter what. Trust me. There are many ways to grant eternal suffering from this quest, but by far the worst is to use the last Polaroid. Using the last Polaroid will invite an entity into your world that is as old as time itself. It may not kill you immediately. In fact, it may never lay a hand on you. It will, however, ensure the most horrific suffering you can imagine. That could mean watching everyone you love be flayed alive, every day for all of your existence. Maybe it will possess you and let you watch it do horrible things. Very few people in this world are acquainted with this entity, and that's for good reason. With that in mind, most people use 5 or 6, get a few answers and leave. The daring ones use 11. I appreciate their bravery and concentration. Care should be taken to look at each photo carefully. If there are any obscure shapes hiding in the background, it is time to conclude your quest. If each photo is of the same tombstone, it may not be worth continuing until you can see the inscribed date. Wouldn't want it to be too soon. Particularly if you're not 100% confident that all of the previous steps have been done correctly. If you use less than 11 Polaroids, and all of the photos are devoid of peculiar shapes, good on you, you're done now. Just make sure to conclude your quest before 3 a.m. Place the camera and all the Polaroids back in the drawer. Blow out the candle and place it in the drawer too. Leave the building and get what you can from your answers, but don't try the procedure again. I hope you found what you were looking for.
The SCP Foundation has classified SCP-122 as Euclid, meaning that it can pose a risk to safety and requires specific containment procedures.
Sarah Little stood amidst the vibrant blooms in the small city flower shop where she worked, her delicate fingers carefully arranging a bouquet of roses, taking in the bright colors and fragrances that seemed so at odds with the darkness that aided her mind. She was a troubled woman, and was no stranger to vivid nightmares. Now, to be fair, it appears to be some people's lot in life to be plagued by nightmares, and they manage just fine. The problem is, ever since Sarah could remember, her dreams would happen in real life. It was like some kind of dream deja vu, or her somehow remembering the future. Not every dream would come true, but enough did to make Sarah a nervous wreck most days. As a worker in the flower shop, her days were spent surrounded by beauty, while her nights were plagued by terror. Once home, Sarah's 2 cats, Luna and Salem, offered her comfort and companionship in her small apartment. Their gentle purring and warm presence brought her a small measure of solace in her otherwise sleepless nights. Everything about Sarah's waking hours was beautiful. In an effort to try to control her nightmares, Sarah developed an obsession with dream catchers. She would make them while watching TV at night. Focusing on the intricate webs and feathers would reduce her anxiety before going to sleep. Sometimes, while creating her gentle webs, she would think about the name, Dreamcatcher. She understood the lore. Your nightmares would pass through and the dreams are trapped for you to enjoy. But with all the nightmares she had, she sometimes wondered if maybe she should start making nightmare catchers. Maybe they would be trapped. What if she put them far away from her bed? They could be trapped before they even reached her. In the end, it seemed not to matter. The nightmares kept coming. Desperate for help, Sarah sought out Dr. Elizabeth Martin. She was not only a respected therapist, but she'd also written several books about state management and dreams. Sarah hoped that Dr. Martin could provide the guidance and support she so desperately needed. The nightmares that plagued Sarah were growing more intense and violent with each passing night. Scenes of carnage, destruction, and pain unfolded in her dreams, leaving her shaken and gasping for air. It was becoming unbearable. But finally the day arrived, and she made it to her first appointment with Dr. Martin. The doctor's office was very clean and white, but also cold and kind of sterile looking. It was similar to what Sarah would imagine an operating room for a psychological problem would look like. There was no plants, no warmth, and no sense of life. A robot's fantasy. Everything in the room had a purpose, and the more useful something was, the closer it was to Dr. Elizabeth Martin. Pens, pads, laptop, all within arm's reach. While most first visits to a therapist involve a little more getting to know you, Sarah wasted no time. She shared her terrifying experiences with Dr. Martin. She either wanted ways to stop having nightmares or ways to make them stop coming true. Dr. Martin listened and waited a moment. "Well, I have some good news for you, Sarah. Your nightmares will not be coming true anymore. Because they never have. Your mind is actually working against you, right now. People don't realize how powerful their minds are. While you're doing normal day-to-day activities, there's a part of your mind working in the background, looking to attach your nightmares to things in your real-life surroundings. I think what we should do is discuss your nightmares and see if we can find some past hurt you're trying to come to terms with." Sarah wouldn't even look up at the doctor. "I don't think that's the case. I've had the same nightmare twice now about a bus accident. I've never been in a bus accident." Dr. Martin kept silent, trying to encourage Sarah to continue. Or the FedEx man that I keep seeing jump off the building. I've never been a man, I've never worked for FedEx, and I've never jumped off a building." Dr. Martin tapped her pen against her lip. "Okay, I'm not someone that likes to jump to medications, but it's going to be really difficult for you to heal with the back of your mind constantly looking for scary things. So I'm going to give you a script for some anti-anxiety medication. This one is a sedative, but it's the lowest possible dose. It's PRN, so you only take it when you feel like you need it. If you find yourself overwhelmed, you can take one, and it'll slow down the part of your brain that's subconsciously worrying." Sarah picked up her script and went home. She didn't take any, but she felt better knowing that she had the option. That night, she didn't have any nightmares. It was like having that bottle of medicine meant she didn't have to be afraid or worry anymore. Overall, she was pretty happy for a few days, until the night before her next therapy appointment. Sarah had a terrible dream where she was talking to Dr. Martin, and as they spoke, Dr. Martin started to burn. The sight of Dr. Martin casually talking while burning terrified Sarah. She hesitantly shared her experience with the doctor, explaining at first everything had been going well, no nightmares, and a growing sense of normalcy. But just the night before, she had a horrible dream and saw Dr. Martin burn. Yet she continued the conversation as if nothing was wrong. Dr. Martin listened intently, a look of concern crossing her face. "Sarah, that's not possible. People don't just spontaneously start burning. It's not a sure thing, Dr. Martin. Or maybe I'll have another nightmare tonight that'll let me see more of what's happening." "There it is. We found it. See that right there? That's your mind working to give you nightmares. You had a nightmare. You can let it go right now. But instead, you just start searching. Don't try to search your nightmares for clues. It'll only make you have more nightmares. But you don't understand. Sarah, you're holding on to this thing so hard. You're holding on to it so close to your face you can't see around it. You might not even realize if you just let it go, you could have a better life. Sarah started crying. Was Dr. Martin right? If she let it go, would it all just stop? Sarah knew she wasn't able to let it go on her own. Those pills. What side effects should I be on the lookout for? I don't even like taking aspirin. Dr. Martin gave Sarah a reassuring smile. It's one of the safest medications available. The dose I gave you is so small you might not even notice it. So if you need to, you can actually take 2 of those. These should help you calm your racing thoughts and put an end to these terrifying dreams. There's a pretty good chance you won't be on them forever either. We just need you to see that if you don't focus on your nightmares, they'll go away. Sarah agreed. That night, Sarah slept peacefully. The medication seemed to be doing its job. But the next day, she was woken up by an urgent call from Dr. Martin. The therapist's voice was broken. Clearly, she was shaken up by something she had discovered. She told Sarah in the newspaper that day there were 2 prominent headlines. One about a bus involved in a catastrophic accident, and another about a FedEx employee who jumped off of a building. Dr. Martin, now genuinely frightened, began asking Sarah if she had any nightmares the night before. Sarah couldn't remember. She didn't think she did. She didn't remember having any nightmares or any dreams. She slept well. Can you come in today? Our appointment isn't for a few days. It's okay, I cleared my morning. Dr. Martin, I also have to go to work. I can pay you. Dr. Martin continued urgently requesting Sarah come in for a meeting that very day, determined to get to the bottom of this disturbing phenomenon. Sarah hesitated for a moment, her mind racing with the thoughts of her vivid nightmares and the terrifying events they seemed to predict. She knew Dr. Martin needed her help, so she agreed to meet with her at the office as soon as possible. When she got there, Sarah was shocked to see the once pristine office now in a complete state of disarray. Books, pencils, pens, and papers looked like they were thrown everywhere, transforming the once sterile-looking environment into something resembling a chaotic, white-walled asylum. Dr. Martin, looking disheveled and panicked, ushered Sarah inside. Come in, come in. The therapist showed Sarah the newspaper and proceeded to bombard her with a series of questions relating to her nightmares. Do all of your nightmares come true? How much time typically passes between a nightmare and the event occurring in the real world? Are there any common themes or patterns you've noticed? Has a good dream ever come true? Are you seeing things that will happen, or are you somehow making them happen? As Sarah spoke, Dr. Martin scribbled notes furiously, desperate for answers that might help her understand. As the questioning continued, Dr. Martin suggested a new approach. She wanted to prescribe Sarah a sleeping medication known to induce strange dreams, hoping it might provide further insight. Strange dreams are a side effect of this medication. Maybe it would help you see more. Or, if you're somehow causing this, maybe it'll give you a nightmare where nothing will happen in our reality, because the dream isn't really yours. There is no way I'm taking that. The anti-anxiety medication worked, and I'm grateful for that. But you have no idea what you're asking. What if I dream the end of the world, and it happens? We need me to dream less. Dr. Martin couldn't argue with that. But she was so afraid. What if you just don't take the anti-anxiety medication tonight? Sarah could tell Dr. Martin wasn't going to take no for an answer. She meekly answered, Okay. Good, and you'll come back tomorrow, right? So we can discuss any new dreams you might have had, and the nightmares you've had that didn't come true? Sarah did not have the strength to say no. Exhausted from the emotionally draining day, Sarah returned home to her apartment where her 2 cats, Luna and Salem, greeted her affectionately. As she settled into bed, she thought about taking that anti-anxiety medication. It helped her sleep peacefully the night before. And if she didn't take it, she might not even have a nightmare about Dr. Martin. She might have a completely different nightmare. What if she had a nightmare about an elementary school? Just then her focus was broken. Salem walked over and plopped his fat cat body right on Sarah's lap. She looked at Salem and noticed Luna approaching the bed. As she looked at her cats, their gentle presence and dependence on her reminded her of the importance of keeping her word to Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin needed her. just like Salem and Luna. With a deep breath, Sarah decided against taking the medication and instead focused on relaxing, eventually drifting off to sleep. She laid there, uncertain of what the night might bring. Her thoughts a mixture of hope and fear. Sarah didn't sleep well at all that night. She was plagued by a reoccurring nightmare where someone was hit by a bus. The horrific scene played out over and over in her mind, jolting her awake each time. The following morning, Sarah was once again awakened by a frantic phone call from her doctor. With a groan, she answered the call, rubbing the sleep from her eyes. Dr. Martin immediately asked about her dreams, and Sarah shared the disturbing details of the bus-related nightmare. Dr. Martin revealed that she'd never left the office the night before. She needed to find answers. She excitedly told Sarah that she had stumbled upon some occult books and online resources about people who could see the future in their dreams. The doctor believed that a ritual could be performed to induce a controlled dreamlike state in which Sarah would have the ability to direct her visions. Sarah was so tired she could barely understand what Dr. Martin was saying, but agreed to head to the office immediately. It was raining. The dark clouds cast a gloomy shadow over the city. A waterproof jacket and sturdy boots to navigate the slick sidewalks. As she made her way to the office, Sarah's phone rang constantly. Dr. Martin called her multiple times, her voice growing increasingly frantic and obsessive with each call. Finally, Sarah picked up, and Dr. Martin began speaking about the ritual in a frenzied manner, the sort of way you would expect someone to talk that has lost touch with reality. "Sarah, I found it! I found the answers we need! There's a ritual that can help you control your dreams, and we can use it to stop these terrible events from ever happening." Sarah, alarmed by the therapist's manic tone, tried to calm her down and end the call as quickly as possible. "Dr. Martin, I'm on my way. Please just take a deep breath and wait for me. We'll figure this out together." And hung up. Sarah continued on her way. While crossing the street, her phone rang once more. Glancing down, she saw that it was Dr. Martin, calling yet again. Before she could answer, a bus slid on the rain-soaked street, hitting Sarah, her nightmare becoming a chilling reality. Sarah woke up the next day in the hospital, her body aching and her head throbbing. A kind-faced nurse entered the room, offering a sympathetic smile. "You were in an accident yesterday. A bus hit you. It's a miracle you're still alive." He also mentioned that Sarah must be very popular, as her phone had been ringing frequently while she was unconscious. Sarah, beginning to remember what was happening before she was hit by the bus, panicked and scrambled for her phone. There was a series of messages from her doctor. "Sarah, where are you? I've been waiting hours. We need to perform the ritual as soon as possible." "Sarah, I see now this is all a test from God. Sarah, we're meant to overcome this together. Please, hurry. So far, we have the fire and buses. I'm not sure where you are, but I can't get hit by a bus if I stay in my office." Sarah's heart raced as she noticed the messages abruptly stopped at 3 p.m. She couldn't help but wonder why the calls had stopped so suddenly. Her eyes drifted to a newspaper sitting beside her hospital bed, and she felt a chill run down her spine as she read the headline. The article detailed a tragic accident that occurred the day before. A local doctor had been on her computer when lightning struck her office. The electrical surge caused the computer to explode, igniting a fire that quickly engulfed the room. The therapist, identified as Dr. Martin, had not survived. As Sarah processed the shocking news, she realized another nightmare had come true.
SCP-087 describes an unlit concrete staircase that descends indefinitely into darkness.
Every day, a page will fill in this magic diary about your day, so you may remember. I've been reciting those words in my head over and over again, since I noticed the book only has 7 more pages.
Individual is gravely wounded, in poor health, terminally ill, or on their deathbed.
When my wife and I figured out our son received visions of the future, we tried to view it as a blessing. This morning, though, when we told him we are driving over to visit his grandparents, I saw him in the backyard, digging 2 ditches.
And that wraps up day 11, Horror Fam. I hope tonight's stories of seeing the future left you feeling just a little unsent. Sometimes knowing what's coming can be way worse than not knowing at all. But don't worry, we still got plenty more horror on the horizon. Be sure to tune in for day 12. And as always, stay spooky, stay safe, and remember to take good care of yourselves.